Today we're going back to Call of Duty Vanguard. So I realized something, I make a lot of these I went back to insert game title here videos, and I even made one on Call of Duty Vanguard Zombies, but I don't think there's ever been one that I've made on Call of Duty Vanguard, at least not in recent times. So today we are remedying that issue. English is my first language and everything, but for some reason there's just some words that I can't say, or I have a hard time pronouncing, like certain syllables. Remedying. I have a hard time saying that word. Oh, come on, man. I literally have like 6 things selected for my quick play, and it's having a hard time finding a match. Don't tell me this game is dead. We're already in the 101 millisecond ping range. That is so cringe. Like, I never say the word cringe unironically unless something actually makes me cringe, but the fact that YT is in my clan tag, that makes me cringe. And that is why I just deleted it. This game also did come out back in like 2021, and yeah, I was a little desperate to try to grow my channel around that time, so I mean, maybe that's why. Oh man, here we are on the original Das House. See, it was one of those things where when they brought Das House back into Modern Warfare 3, like, it felt almost uncanny. It's like, as you play that map, it was one of those things where it's like, yes, I know it's Das House in terms of the layout, but it's one of those things where the layout was so similar, yet aesthetically it looks so different that my brain was so confused. But now, obviously, I've had plenty of time to adjust to it, so now I'm having that same thing going back to this map from the Modern Warfare 3 version. But anyways, all that being said, I mean, in these videos, I typically just kind of like break down my feelings about the game, and most times it's a pretty non-controversial opinion about most of these games, right? Like, I've had a few controversial opinions. Like, I believe we made a video on Ghosts a while ago. I never played the multiplayer on video for that one specifically. We only made an Extinction video, which I do want to go back and make a multiplayer video for that game at some point. Because what do you know, I was one of those people that actually got Call of Duty Ghosts on launch day, and I've loved that game ever since launch. I know at the time it was a pretty controversial title, obviously. Obviously now in retrospect, you got some people nowadays that are like, hey, that game wasn't that bad, and some people actually do look back at it fondly, but that's only with the power of like retrospect and nostalgia and all that, you know what I mean? Whereas you got people like me who are like, genuinely, it's not even a nostalgia thing. Like, during that game's life cycle and to this day, I've just always loved Ghosts. That being said, as you could probably guess, yeah, I have another one of those pretty controversial opinions when it comes to Call of Duty Vanguard. Ever since this game released, I have always loved this game. From the minute it launched, it doesn't matter what mode we're talking about, campaign, multiplayer, zombies, the whole shebang. Obviously, the campaign was pretty hit or miss for a lot of people. Zombies, basically nobody liked, I mean, except for me. And multiplayer seemed to be pretty take it or leave it across the board. Like, a lot of people loved the gameplay side of things for the most part, just because it was basically like MW 2019, except it was a lot faster. That being said, since day one, during the beta, during the launch of the game, throughout like the entirety of the game's life cycle, I was here supporting this game, loving this game, playing it. Again, I say it in a lot of these videos, but I always repeat myself because it's true. I'm a shill for this series, and I don't say it, when I say that I'm a shill for Call of Duty, I don't say it in the sense of like, oh, they could feed me, like a literal pile of dog doo-doo on a platter and I'd still love it. No, that's not what I mean. When I say I'm a shill for Call of Duty, I just mean that I'm a shill for the core formula and core identity of Call of Duty. And now, granted, it's debatable, and, I've even been on the side of it, of like, being against Call of Duty in the sense that, I really feel like they have been kind of losing their identity in recent years, at least when it comes to, like, the shop and all the bundles and all these crossovers and stuff like that, because at that point, it's like, you're excited for something that's not even Call of Duty related coming to Call of Duty, not even for the sake of it being a Call of Duty thing, but rather because of your love for a completely separate IP. But, I mean, hey, that's a conversation for a whole other day. That being said, despite some of my gripes with the shops and crossovers and some of the identity side of things, I'm still just in love with the core identity and gameplay of Call of Duty. And that's what it really comes down to, right? Like, when you play Call of Duty Vanguard, it is still a very competent game in terms of how it looks, how it sounds, how it feels. It is still an amazing game, like a high quality, high budget, like just great feeling game between like the moment-to-moment gunplay, between the maps, between like everything in the game. It's just a good and fun time. It's a good and fun game, and that's really what it's all about for me. I mean, like, everything else surrounding it, like, people have their very minute, very pedantic and kind of petty gripes with the game sometimes, like, oh, the map design, I didn't particularly like it in this title, or I didn't like the perk system in this game, or the weapons, or da-da-da-da-da, which, all of that stuff, again, it's like just rather pedantic and rather petty. I just feel like we're in the generation where everybody thinks that they're a critic because they have a keyboard. You got the keyboard warriors online. They think just because they use the word objectively that their statement actually has any more substance than it would have otherwise, which that's a word I'm starting to hate so much, objectively, even though, you know, like, half the time when people say something that is quote-unquote objective, it is actually their subjective opinion on a non-objective matter. An objective statement would be something like, okay, Cyberpunk 2077 had a buggy launch. You know what I mean? I'm not dissing Cyberpunk, by the way, because that is in my top 5 favorite games of all time. Like, even through its launch, you know, I played that game initially on a base Xbox One, and if you know anything about the performance on a base Xbox One, I mean, that just goes to show, like, or speak for the game's quality, I would say. You know, if I played it on a base Xbox One, and yet it's still in my top 5 favorite games of all time. But anyways, yeah, saying something like that would probably be, like, I'd say that's probably objectively true just because of how many bugs there were for a lot of people at launch, myself included. I had a bug where I got, like, through the first third of the game, and then my save file just got corrupted, and I had to restart the entire game. But I was happy to do so just because I loved the game that much, and obviously I still love the game. But half the time when people try to make quote-unquote objective takes on these games, they're all just garbage and they're all subjective anyway. And again, it's like, who cares if you have an objective statement about a game? Like, who even cares? Like, dog, it's a video game. Why does everybody need to be a critic? Why is everybody so overly critical? I mean, that goes beyond Call of Duty. That goes for so many different games, and I'd say even mediums as a whole, whether it comes to, like, movies or comic books or, like, anime, literally anything. Like, people, like, why is everyone a critic? What happened to us just enjoying entertainment? Why does everything need to be critiqued? I actually, in my YouTube recommendations, I started clicking on either not interested or just simply don't recommend channel whenever there's something about, like, people saying, oh, how does this thing hold up in this year, or like, is this thing actually that good? Is it really that bad? Just because I'm getting so sick of, like, everybody being a critic. Like, dog, let's just have fun and enjoy and gush about things that we love. Why can't we just be positive? Like, the statement or the saying of, does blank hold up in 2020 blank? Like, I hate that saying. What do you mean, does it hold up? Like, does it meet today's arbitrary standards of this or that? Because in some ways, some would say that modern takes or modern standards might actually be inferior compared to, you know, old school ones, whereas some would say vice versa. Again, it's all completely subjective, yet these people try to act like their opinions are completely objective, and you know how people are, right? How human beings are. They just believe everything they read online. They read one thing that some person says, and therefore they just kind of go on and spout the same garbage, and it's an echo chamber. I've said this many times before, but that's the reason that I stopped using social media, like, a while ago. And if you're wondering why I'm talking about all this in a video talking about Call of Duty Vanguard, it's because all of this is completely irrelevant to this game. There's so many people that try to point out objective flaws with this game, even though, again, all of their flaws that they try to point out as being objective, 99% of them are completely subjective. When people try to talk about how certain things with this game hold up now, or how they will hold up in a couple of years, again, it's completely subjective and completely arbitrary, because we all know Call of Duty Vanguard is going to be like Call of Duty Ghosts, where at the time, and even a couple of years after the fact, you had people still dunking on the game being like, oh, it's one of the worst Call of Duties of all time, or oh, this or that isn't gonna age well, or whatever. But here we are, like, 11 years later, and now there's tons of people that are like, you know what, Ghost wasn't that bad, that was actually a great Call of Duty. And people are gonna say that I'm full of crap now, but just watch. In another, like, I don't know, like 6, 7, maybe 8 years, people are gonna start coming back to Vanguard going, oh, that game actually wasn't that bad, that was actually a great game. And there's gonna be people watching this saying, nah, dude, Grotesque, you don't know what you're talking about, this game was actually garbo. But again, the same thing happened with Call of Duty Ghosts, and I've been playing this franchise since the PS2 era with Call of Duty Finest Hour. That was like the first Call of Duty that I actually went, bought, owned, and played. Like, I'm an old head. I've been with this franchise for a long time. I've seen it happen time and time again. It's gonna happen with this game at some point. You gotta remember, Call of Duty appeals to a wide demographic of people, including children, so there's a lot of, like, kids that were playing. I mean, I even heard kids on the mic all the time playing this game, right? Like, it's no surprise, or it's no secret that kids have always been playing Call of Duty. I mean, back in the day, I was one of those kids. So in a couple of years, those kids are going to be getting older. They'll be turning 18, 19, 20, or whatever, in how many years, you know, about that age where people start to kind of feel nostalgic before it just kind of sets in more and more as the years go on. And before you know it, the narrative on this game is going to completely shift, just like it has for many other Call of Duties, and I'd say many games and things in general. Like, it kind of also applies to something like the Star Wars prequels, where you had the adults at the time where they were like, oh, I'm not too sure about this, but then you had the kids like me that were like, you know, going to the theaters, buying the merch, buying the DVDs, you know, just being all up in it, buying the novelizations of it. Like, I even bought, like, novelizations of the movies. And to this day, you know, it's hard for me to rank Star Wars movies just because I love Star Wars so so much, but I must say The Revenge of the Sith is definitely like my favorite Star Wars movie. Like it is a roller coaster of fun yet emotion, and to this day I genuinely cry when I watch that movie just because it's so sad. Like when you watch like episode 1 and you see Anakin is just like a little, you know, an innocent sweet little kid being like, when I grow up I want to be a Jedi, and then like what he becomes by the end of it all, like it's genuinely tragic. But again, you know, the whole like perception and opinion of the prequels over the years has just slowly shifted just because, you know, there was a younger demographic of people at the time that obviously didn't have that loud of a voice outside of, I want to buy the toys, I want to buy the movies. And then the older they get, obviously their voice gets louder and louder, and what do you know, the whole perception of the prequels has changed over time, and that's definitely been helped with the sequels releasing. And I'm not here to say that the sequels are either good or bad, you know, that's a discussion for a whole other day, and furthermore, it's a discussion that doesn't matter because, once again, it's a completely subjective conversation. If you want to say that them bringing back Palpatine and Rise of Skywalker was an objectively bad move, you're completely and utterly wrong in that, because in somebody else's subjective opinion, that might have been the best thing that Star Wars ever did. Art is completely subjective, and your interpretations and your opinions on that are all completely subjective, and you're entitled to your opinion, just don't try to pass it around as fact, because it's not. And once again, just to iterate, you know, everything that I'm saying right now is completely relevant to not only this game, but also Call of Duty as a whole, because just like the opinions flipped on like Call of Duty Ghosts and all those other games back in the day, and even the futuristic games out at the time, people were like, oh man, really, Infinite Warfare, another futuristic Call of Duty? Well, now there's tons of people going back and loving Infinite Warfare. Like, we're getting to that point for that game too. But really, this whole conversation goes beyond Call of Duty. This is just me trying to put my voice out there and my take on how much I hate, like, just the internet in general right now. How, like, again, everybody's a critic, everybody's a keyboard warrior. Also, I have no idea what streak we're on. We already got attack dogs, and I'm still alive, and we're still popping off, so I mean, I don't know. But anyways, yeah, this is just a message that I wanted to put out there of, like, everybody, can we all just stop, like, you know, just stop being so critical? You know what I mean? Like, who cares? Did anybody ask for your opinion? No. Our time on this earth is finite, you know what I mean? Like, we only have so much time to live. Would you rather spend your time, like, complaining about something, or would you rather just, you know, like, I don't know, go watch or play something that you do enjoy and just spread some more positivity and just gush about something you love? You know what I mean? And another thing, can we please stop using time to ask if a certain thing holds up or is still good today? Like, if something was good at one point, it will always be good. Asking if something holds up or if it's quote-unquote still good today is like saying the Mona Lisa is no longer a good painting because it crossed a certain threshold of time as to where it's allowed to be considered good. Like, what are we even talking about, dog? Maybe it's just because I hate literally any form of negativity, or maybe it's because the first console I played on was the SNES, and then I grew up with like the PS1 and PS2. But I think everybody just needs to learn to just kind of like accept things for what they are and enjoy them and fall in love with them and respect them for what they are, because at the end of the day, whether it's anime, movies, video games, comic books, they're all art forms. They were all created by a person or a group of people, and they all deserve to be respected as the art form that they are. Even if it's something like that Kong game that came out last year that was published by Game Mill that everybody was, you know, kind of clowning on. I mean, like, hey, I'm not here to tell you if the game is objectively good or bad, because in some little kid's mind, you know, in their subjective opinion, they could be 5 years old playing that game, and they might absolutely love it. Me personally, I didn't play that one just because I didn't end up buying it, but like, hey, you know what, if there's some kid out there that's like having a blast with the game, that's awesome for them. And furthermore, I'm not going to diss them on the game, because I know there was a group of hardworking individuals that genuinely tried their best to work with, you know, the strict deadlines they were given. Because when you look at that game, I'm sure the developers would have wanted to put more time into it, but there were some rumors and other statements that got out there that maybe the game didn't exactly have the amount of time that it needed to get done. So again, it's not my job or my place, or nor do I really have any right to sit there and bash on the game. All I can do is salute and thank the developers for giving it their all and still giving us a work of art regardless, because at the end of the day, all video games are art and they all deserve to be respected as such, including Call of Duty Vanguard. But anyways, yeah, that's my rant slash tangent slash rambling for the day. I do a lot of these. There's not really any rhyme or reason to it. I just kind of turn on the camera and talk, and then we see what happens. But anyways, as I said in last night's video, I'm just in that mood to go back and play some older Call of Duties at this point. I mean, I know this game's only 3 years old, but you know, with how fast new Call of Duties come out, I mean, this one is gonna be considered an old Call of Duty before you know, but anyway, yeah, I'm probably just gonna, keep going back to some older Call of Duties for the next couple days. I don't know, I'm having a lot of fun doing it right now. We typically end up doing this about once a year, where I just go back and revisit a bunch of random Call of Duties. This year, I'll be sure to hit any of the ones that we didn't get to last year. But anyway, as always, massive shout out, thank you to all the Patreons and channel members, thank you to all in the low baller tier, name shout out, thank you to all in the mid baller tier, my last game, data, many of this shut that on the G tier, run events, and cheese code. Thank you guys so much, you guys are literal legends. I love you. Thank you guys for watching, have an amazing day, stay beautiful, I love you all. Peace.